Luckily, that's it. You gotta come off before I ruin this. This one is just being a man's got to know his limitations. Welcome back to Freeman's Garage. We're working on the 56 Chevy again today, and we are going to put some brand new wheel bearings onto our axle shafts. But wait, there's more. We're doing brand new wheel studs as well. It's going to involve the floor press and maybe a little bit of cutting and grinding. Our brand new parts are supposed to be right here in this box. When we get to it, we'll cut this open and we'll find out if we got some quality stuff here or some overseas junk. Before I hope that buffs out. Before we start on those wheel bearings, let's hop on out to the paint booth and real quick we'll put a final little thin coat of semi-gloss on our brake parts out there. We were painting those in the previous video working on our 56 Chevy, and yeah, we ended up running out of paint, but we got it now. So let's finish that because the backing plates for the brakes have to go into the rear axle housing before we can slide our axle shafts with our brand new bearings into the axle housing. And that way the timing should work out perfect. The paint will be cured, the axles will be ready to go back in. It's all good, man. It's all good. Alright, that stuff's going to sit out there and dry / cure while we do our wheel bearings. Now we'll start with the passenger side axle shaft and wheel bearing. We're going to remove the lock ring, the bearing, and the flange. And once that's off, we'll press out our old wheel studs, and then we'll press the new wheel studs in, and then we'll put the flange back on, press our new wheel bearing on, and put our new lock ring on. This here's the flange, this here's the bearing, and this is an O-ring, which is a oil seal that goes around the bearing. And then this here is our lock ring. Some people call that a wedding ring. Now when we take this apart right now, we're going to remove this lock ring first, and then the bearing, and then the flange will come off. But when we do the opposite, when we start putting parts onto the axle shaft, do not let me press anything on without putting this flange on first. Please don't let me forget. A quick little factoid about 1956 Chevy passenger cars. The factory service manual calls for the front wheel bearings to be repacked every 10,000 miles. But the rear wheel bearings, the ones that we're replacing today, well, the factory service manual says don't touch them. They don't need any service. They were permanently packed at the factory. Although the factory service manual does say that you can remove the seal and then repack them with exactly 1 1/4 teaspoon of their recommended wheel bearing lubricant. But in our case, the rear axle was full of water, and these wheel bearings have been through HE double hockey sticks and back. So we are going to do what the factory service manual says to do for removal. We're going to place our axle shaft with the lock ring on a sturdy surface. And with a chisel and a hammer, we are going to nick the lock ring. We don't have to cut it, we don't have to break through it, we just need to nick the lock ring deeply, and then we should be able to remove it. Now, the hardest part is, well, which chisel do you go with? The smallest one here, that seems to make sense. It fits just right onto the lock ring, but this is some cheap, newer junk. These 3 bigger ones, These were passed down to me, and these are at least twice my age. These are the real deal here. Maybe we should take this fatty right here and just whack this thing. Turned a little sideways. I got a rip in the crotchage. Oh man, I'm about officially out of pants, fellas. It's about time a guy makes a trip to the thrift store. So let's put this right here. Okay. And now let's give this a whack. Like a man. Okay. How deep did we nick it? I wonder if we need to nick it deeper. Yeah, let's give it another. Here, come in here. You got it. I want you to see it. It's a nice, good nick. But we need to nick it deeply, just like the book says. So we're pretending right now that it's 1950 something, and we work in the shop at a Chevrolet dealership. And we've got a car in our bay, and we are servicing it, and we are going by the book. I don't think we're nicking it deep enough. Any Nicks out there? If your name is Nick, if your name is Nick, give this video a thumbs up and say something in the comments. I don't think we're hitting it hard enough. I think we need to swing this hammer hard enough. You know, I mean, tiny little bones in your hand shattering power. Let's step it up a notch too. I'd probably be fired right now by the shop manager. Ah, Freeman! Where's that 56? The customer's been here all day. Who's doing those wheel bearings? It's Freeman, sir. Oh my gosh. Friggin' Freeman. That kid's dumber than a box of rocks. That kid couldn't find his way out of a paper bag. That kid ain't got a lick of sense. It looks so easy in the service manual. This works because there's no turning back now. Ah, we got it. See, it's the risk versus reward. Okay. How hard are you going to hit the thing? If we would have went full power the first swing, I probably would have done it in one swing. But if we would have missed, we'd be down to one claw. There it is. It worked just like the 1956 service manual said it would. That's how deep we nicked it. If we crisped it, it probably wouldn't have worked. That was a stupid joke. That wasn't even funny. So now, with the lock ring off, the wedding ring off, it is now divorced. We can now remove the wheel bearing, and I know from experience that we're probably not going to figure out a way that we can press it, the bearing off of the axle shaft with our 20-ton floor press here. Not because it's not strong enough or anything like that, it can handle that. It's just the whole trying to press it off, and you know, you gotta get you got to get something in here, you know, so you can press against. And I've just never really been able to figure it out. So we're most likely, you know, we could save time and just cut it off right now, cut the bearing off. But I want to take a second because I've got a little idea in my head that might work. And if it does work, then I've got a new way to get them off. Now, when we go to put the new bearing on, it's going to be a cinch. It's going to be a jiff. Looks like this clip fell out. Should probably reinstall this or figure out where it goes on this press and reinstall it. It might help things not fly apart in our face. I don't know where it goes. I guess we'll just put it right back where we found it and hope everything turns out okay. You know what? The idea I had in my head, I'm not even going to share it with you because it's not going to work. Let's get the angle grinder with the cutoff wheel and just hack this thing off. I'm sure you've noticed how greasy this axle and this flange is. That's because the O-ring and or the seal on the bearing itself was clearly leaking. And I'm zip tying the flange out of the way to lower the risk of us hitting it with the cutoff wheel. That'll help keep it out of the way. It's like holding someone's hair back while they puke. We're almost there. I was cutting the outside of the wheel bearing off first, the outside ring of the bearing, and then I thought, let's just go for the jugular. So then I started cutting the inside ring. That's the outside ring. I'm not going to touch it because it's really hot. And then the inside ring. And I need to be careful cutting that inside ring because I don't want to go too far and then cut into the shoulder on the axle shaft that we're going to be pressing the new bearing up against. And I think I nicked the flange there and there. And there's a couple other nicks that look really old. So somebody must have done the exact same thing. Somebody years ago must have cut wheel bearings off and put new ones on and nicked that like we did. History repeats itself. The race of the bearing is spinning on the axle shaft. Must be kind of the same thing happened to it like when we nicked the lock ring. Or at least that, okay, this is going to sound really dumb, metal tension maybe, and it let itself go. Let itself go like some of us have done to ourselves. Zip tie off. Wow, these are the dullest snips I've ever seen. Shame on me. Can we do this without bending the flange up? You know what song just started blasting in my head? Higher and higher. Pictures in an empty room. Well, you gotta come off before I ruin this. We'll do the old one side at a time trick. We'll do the old reverse psychology trick. Good. I don't want you to come off. I want you to stay on there forever so that we can never drive this car. That's what I want. I don't want you to come off. Oh yeah. Nice. That was a little little damage on here. I don't know if that's from us. You might not be able to see that, but there's just a little teeny nick. I don't know if we did that or not, but I think we'll be fine. There's the seal that came off the bearing. And then here's the flange. And there is a gasket that actually goes on this flange. And hopefully in that box, when we open it in a bit here and check out our bearings, hopefully it came with the gaskets. And if you don't know what those are for, I'll explain that when we get to it. It's actually a pretty cool design feature on these axles. I think it's pretty rad, man. Here's what's left over of our bearing. And it's doesn't turn very well anymore. And here's the O-ring. Oh wait, no, actually that's the spring that holds the seal in on the side here. I don't know where the rubber O-ring that was on here went. Flew off somewhere. I'm going to throw our flange into the parts washer and let that soak while we press out our old wheel studs. I don't think I need these on anymore, do I? Unless I want really warm ears. I'm trying to remember. Seems like every time I do something, I try to remember, you know, how did I do this the last time I did the same job? And for some reason I think it's because I have too many projects going on at once. You know? We'll go with this arrangement here. Let's see how it works out. We don't know how stubborn these wheel studs are going to be. Many times here on Freeman's Garage and on the Freeman's Garage Extra channel, we've had plenty of let's just say floor press explosions and tip overs and accidents. So the safety glasses will stay on. We'll put some lubrication on here as well. But for right now, let's just see how an initial push goes. You tell me what's going on. I'm not sticking my face in there. Oh, nice. Good. That is good. Coming right out. Put it in the comments right now. Am I going to be able to catch this or not? You won't put it in the comments. No. I think oh, I caught it. I just got another song pop into my head, but this time it's Johnny Horton. North to Alaska. The songs in my head are just all over the place today. What's next? Engelbert Humperdinck? That wouldn't be bad. His vocals are spot on. If this one comes out as easy as the first one did, I think we're going to cue a royalty-free track and just blast the other three out. Less talky, more worky. Noise. Man, these wheel studs on this rear axle just came out way easier than the wheel studs that we removed from the front of the car. That was a sketchy nightmare. You know, sometimes losers can be winners. But you know, Merle Haggard said that he was always on a mountain when he would fall. So let's just be careful. All right, so the wheel studs are now souvenirs, and we're going to clean up our axle, get all this grease off, along with cleaning up that flange that's been pre-soaking in here. But it's too bad that I keep using the top of my parts washer as a storage area. All right, extra work. You can make some extra storage shelves or something. Hey, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. We'll just stack all this onto the drill press. Okay? And then we can use our parts washer, and then when we need to use our drill press, this is empty. And then when we need to use our drill press, we'll move all of this to the trunk of the car, and I just knock this greasy axle right to the back of my pants, my last pair of pants. I'm half complaining, half kidding, all right? You know, why is my magnet on a stick right here? That's kind of a weird spot for that. I'm running a fairly hardcore solution in this parts washer, so we're going with some skin protection. Might as well keep the eye protection on that I forgot that I had on, because if I take them off now, you know I'm going to get this stuff in my eyeballs. What's going on with our flowage here? Is our filter clogged, or are we running a little... That couldn't be too low, could it? I don't know. Ooh, what's going on? It's not good for our pump if it's running dry. We'll shut it off. We'll have to look at that. It'll go on. Just put it on the list. That's gonna do it. Well, that's gonna blow right off of there. As long as our new bearings and seals don't leak, we won't have a greasy mess on our axle again. Before we press on our brand new wheel bearing on this axle, there are two burning questions that need answers. Question number one, should we spray some black on the end of this axle? It's kind of pointless, right? But, oh yeah, let's do it. It's gonna look cool. It's like building a plastic model kit. And the other burning question is, do we have wheel studs for the back of the car? I'm pretty sure that I remember ordering them a long time ago. Where are they? It was a long, long time ago. I can still remember when. What song is that? All the church bells were broken. Yes. Nice. Got it. My favorite brand of wheel studs too. Mainly because the box is what I call Omaha orange, and it says 1918. Better confirm the part number. Yep. And do we have all 10? Looks like it. Sweetness. Some of the parts and tools in today's video are linked down in the video description in case you need something. All the legwork's done for you. I'm setting our old studs in here just to help keep paint out of the threads. Sometimes you gotta paint your arm. It's an old Chinese proverb. We'll use the heat gun to cut our dry time down. If we painted the flange, would that be taking it too far? Alright, even though the heat gun cuts our drying forge/cure times way down, still takes a long time before you can start, manhandling things without ripping the paint off, Still needs adequate time to cure. So let's slide this. Please. Need a holster. Might burn your hip though. Let's slide this axle, just slide it in a little bit into the axle housing. It can just hang there and dry. And while this is drying, we can get the lock ring and bearing off the driver's side axle and get that stuff cleaned up. So the brake parts out there in the paint booth, those are ready to go whenever we need them. Those are nice and dry. That stuff's sitting there drying. And the driver's side axle is, I thought I lost it for a second. It's right there. Alright, let's start on it. And when this driver's side axle is all caught up to where the passenger side axle is, we'll be ready to install the new bearings, which means we will open up that box I showed you at the beginning of the video, make sure they're the right bearings and that they look like they're quality, and find out if the gaskets came with it, or with them, with the bearings. And yeah, and then we'll get that stuff pressed on, and then when we actually go to put everything into the axle housing, I'll show you what the gaskets are for and what they do. It'll make sense when we get to it. Let's go ahead and start on this driver's side axle. Since we've already done the passenger side, this driver's side's gonna go a lot faster. And plus, we only have 2 wheel studs to remove on this one. These bumpers are so huge, man. Stick out. Luckily that's it. I don't think there's any metal stuck inside of my arm. This one is just being a son of a gun. Look at that. Got it all the way down to that part. And it still doesn't want to come loose. Didn't I say that the driver's side axle would go faster than the passenger side? It's probably been twice as long. I've probably been hacking away at this thing for a half an hour. I wasn't planning on working down on the floor for this long. I was assuming it was just going to be another few minutes, but... yeah, I don't know. She is a toughie. Ah, there we go. There we go. I think. Okay, we got it now. We just need to work it back and forth. You know, removing and installing wheel bearings on this car is a pretty quick job. Not if this happens to you, but I'm sure it's because of the water that was in the rear end, so. It probably wouldn't be like this otherwise. There we go. Come on. You know what you need? You need a little bit of frontier justice. No, wrong way. Okay, forget about the frontier justice. I didn't mean that. I was trying to sound like a bad boy, like a wild outlaw, like Josie Wales. But you know what? A man's got to know his limitations. Well, you know what? I think I'm gonna cut you off. Oh, actually, I see you're cracked. It's a little crack right there. Oh yeah, we're gonna take advantage of that. Good golly, Miss Molly. Tutti frutti, wham bam lamb. You know, how did Little Richard even? How did he even remember how to say that? Wop bop a loo bop, wop bop a bam. Tutti frutti. Boy, that took forever. Now I'm gonna miss Kojak. I gotta know what Theo's up to tonight. Alright, let's get this axle and flange cleaned up and painted. Hey, you wanna see what cut my arm? Oh, we gotta get the wheel stud out. Oh, there's just one of them in here. There's pieces all over the floor. That's what hit me. Or maybe it was this. It's basically an extreme paper cut. Souvenirs. Our flange is a wee bit bent. We could hammer it straight on this. Oh yeah, that's working phenomenal. Not. I bet when we tighten the bolts up, it'll pull it straight. We'll give it a little bit more. That's good, let's paint it. I wanna know what love is. I want you to show it. Alright, time to ruin the nice new paint on our axle shaft. You know how it is. Let's press in the brand new wheel studs on both axles, all 10 of them. And then after that, we'll finally open up that box. And these wheel studs, you know, there's threads in there, there's grooves, right? So if we screw this up, it's all over. So for good luck, let's take a sip from the can of chemicals. How do those scientists make it so satisfying? It's not even anything real. Let's just start doing something and just see what happens. Oh, I already came down too far. Come on, Brian. Don't I usually wear safety glasses when I play with the press? Goodbye, brand new paint. Alright, it's going in. And it feels just right. So I don't think that we're ruining anything. Except for our brand new paint, I'm sure we're ruining. But you know, that's the beauty of spray paint. You know, you can do touch-ups whenever you want. It's just about all the way there. Pretty sure that's all the way. I love that sound. Oh, I put a... You know... Gosh darn it. Maybe we should have painted this after we put the wheel studs in. Well, if we did... Okay, well if we went that way, we could probably... It'd probably work better. We just need to put a flat piece on top of here. But let's take this axle shaft out. Oh yeah. Now that is a beauty. So there's that side. Nice and flush, pressed in there. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Uh-oh. Is it in the right direction? Just kidding. Well, let's do another wheel stud. And we'll try not to screw up the paint this time. And then once we have the method perfected, then we'll blitzkrieg for them all, because I really want to open that box and see our brand new wheel bearings and find out if the gaskets that we need are there. And I can't wait to tell you about what the gaskets are for. Some of you know, some of you don't. It's pretty cool. Pretty ingenious little creation General Motors came up with. Or maybe they stole it from somebody. Who knows? Van Halen's back in my head again, except for this time it's Hot for Teacher. Hot for Teacher! But, you know, you might as well... Dallas, we might have a problem. Nope, we don't. We're good. In the neighborhood. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We got it all under control. All right. Time to blast through these. We only have, well, it's 5 on each side. 5 plus 5. So that equals, and then we've done, so that's, if you know, pi, 4.91. We've got less than 10 left, is what I'm trying to say. Two left, and I dropped my little adapter piece and it rolled underneath the car. This is why I am such a big fan of the magnet on a stick. No fuss, no muss. Our paint survived. Pretty good. Now it's time to open that box, find out what's really inside of it, and hopefully we'll be pressing some brand new 1956 Chevy wheel bearings on. These parts came out of the great state of Minnesota, you betcha. The land of 10,000 lakes. I've spent plenty of time in Minnesota. Lots and lots of time. One of my favorite states. All right, yes, so we got a gasket and a bearing and a lock ring. And then we got a second gasket, bearing, and lock ring. That's just what we need. Oh, these came from Ohio. Well, I love you too, Ohio. I was thinking Minnesota because I have another box with parts in it that arrived for this car. Exact same kind of box that came from Minnesota. So I got my labels mixed up, all right? You want to know how much I paid for these bearings? I paid, do you? Oh, okay. I paid $23 a piece. So that's $46, taxes $3.80, shipping $0, total $49.80. I'm hoping that price got us the Made in USA ones. Let's Let's make sure the lock ring has a chamfered edge, and it does. The chamfered edge is going to go towards the end of the axle with the flange, so we can't screw that up. 2 O-ring seals, 2 instead of 1, and of course there's a seal on the sides too. I'm not sure where they were made. Let's just hope it was the United States. And it's a solid bearing. It's not all loosey-goosey like the ones that we took off. Alright, this all looks good. As long as everything fits. And then eventually when we have gear oil inside the rear end and we're driving the car, we will find out then if these leak or not. With bearings like this, sometimes you get junk that's just, they're just junky leakers. So hopefully these are good ones and we don't have any issues. And speaking of leaking, our gasket's got something to do with that. I'll be telling you here in just a few minutes what those are for. I think I'm addicted to the do's. Can't stop. The manual from 1956 says to install the bearing with the rubber O-ring away from the flange. Let me explain. So the O-ring side goes away from the flange, and the O-ring side is the side with the removable seal with the spring. So, where's our new bearing? So what we will do is have the side with the removable seal with the spring. We'll have that be, we'll pretend that there's just one seal, right? You see what I'm getting at here? You see how this giant brain of mine is working? See, those two sides look like that. Those two sides look like that. They got the seal with the spring. So we will do seal with spring, side away from flange. But being a man takes more than big muscles and a fast brain. I think what that means is that we have to actually do the work now. So we got it figured out. So let's get on it. All right, let's do it. Let's start with the passenger side axle. Bearing axle, huh? Whoa. I'm glad you said something. I really was going to press that bearing. No, I'm just kidding. It's the moment of no return. Make sure that's clean. And then we need to think about it before we put this flange on. Okay. So it goes that way, right? Right? Flange goes on that way. Because this is going to bolt to the backing plate, right? This goes into the housing. And then this is going to have bearing, lock ring, and then this bolts to the backing plate. Right? Should probably do this right in front of you so you can see. Okay, so that's nice and clean. I'm a little nervous because I don't want to screw it up. Okay, so our rubber O-ring side, removable seal with spring, away from flange. Okay, so that would go like this. Like that. We'll put a tiny bit of lube on there, not grease, just some WD-40. You don't want this to spin on the axle shaft. You want that to stay in place, so you don't want to, I mean, it's going to be a press fit no matter what, but I wouldn't grease it a ton. A little bit of lubage. Here's the trick we're gonna do for this. We're gonna take Jimmy Superfly Snuka's wedding ring. Okay. We're gonna put that on here. And now, that way, that's what we're gonna be pressing against to press the bearing on. We don't want to press on the outside of the bearing or we'll probably destroy it. And this is not going to get pressed onto the axle shaft because we've already nicked it by the book and everything. It's loosened up. So even down here at towards the end, it's not going to get tight. It'll come off. We'll turn these this way. Gosh darn it, I wanted to put this piece in there. Let me find something else. Perfect. Alright, let me just look at this one last time. Yeah, we could blaze through this and be done by now. But let's just double check that we're not going to be cussing like a sailor in a minute here. Cross your furry little fingers. So good so far. We are going on. We have pressed on a little bit. Well, we haven't really got to the pressing yet. But you see, we need to make a little adjustment with our setup here. I love doing stuff like this. Pretty sweet, man. Watch this. This lock ring will end up locking on here somehow. Wouldn't that just be amazing? Okay, we're starting to get some more resistance now. And remember, we're pressing the inside ring of the bearing up against the shoulder of the axle shaft there. You know when you leave home and you just feel like you forgot something? I feel like that right now. I feel like this is too good to be true. Okay, we are touching the shoulder. Let's take a look. Alright. That looks good. Now time to get the new lock ring on. Where is that? Where'd it go? Install the lock ring with the chamfer toward the bearing. Looks like both sides has it. Oh my gosh. What do we do? Let's just put it on. Well, that would clear across the garage. Once again, I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I'm not. You know what I miss? I miss Mayberry. Sitting on the porch, drinking ice cold cherry Coke, and everything was in black and white. Yeah. A little snugness there at the end. It's a beaut. It's a beautiful world. Look at that. Okay, now it's time to realize, oh, wait a minute, that's backwards, or we're missing something. And that was the P side, the passenger side axle, so we'll put that there. Now we got one more, the driver's side. Are you there? Are you with me? Are you still engaged? I feel like the energy kind of went down a little bit. Come on, let's pick it up. I know it's hot in here. I'm not supposed to talk about the weather, but it is 100 something, okay? It's not a complaint, I'm just mentioning it. Let's get the energy kicked up, man. Yeah, mommy. That is fan-damn-tastic. Beautiful. This gasket has this little cutout area right here on the bottom. I'll pull this axle shaft back out so I can show you this easier. So that little cutout part there that I just showed you, that right there is where this hole in the backing plate is. Your axle's in the middle, your brake, all your brake stuff is around here, and then the drum goes over all of it, right? And look at the shape of this. And then the shape of that gasket again. So these 4 bolts, the bolts go through this flange, they go through this gasket, and they go through the backing plate, okay? And through this flange right here, okay? All that bolts together in the gasket is sandwiched. No. Why that didn't break. The gasket is sandwiched in between. And so if any oil gets in here, okay, it's going to be, it gets past this bearing and it seals, it's going to be in here inside the brake drum where the brake shoes are. And that right there will funnel it down through that hole and down the back side of the backing plate away from your brakes. Man, we kicked some butt today. One step closer to this car going back on the road. We got an engine that I'll be revealing to you soon and stuffing in the car. We're about to do tires and wheels too. Subscribe and hit the arrow button to share these videos via text message or email. If you would, because that's the only way that this channel is going to grow. I'm sending you to one of these videos to watch next. And keep the greasy side down and the shiny side up.